Hello, lovely ladies. How are we doing today? So here's the video I promised. I'm going to do my best at it. It might be a bit long. If you haven't met me, I am Eleanor. I go by Radically for Jesus here on YouTube. I haven't been very active for a really long time, but I'm trying to get more so. We will see how this goes. The calling has been beating me up at times about it, but what I do is I make videos in the spirit of Titus 2 for my Christian sisters. So hopefully you find these a help. If you don't, there's plenty of other ladies out there who have a lot more witty things than me. So we're going to go ahead and get into today's topic. Today's topic is gossip. This has been brought on predominantly, and if you see me glancing, I have notes over here. It's been brought on predominantly because of the crazy situation between Candace Owens and Erica Kirk. I have not followed it, and I don't really think we probably should be following it. And it's because of gossip. I think ultimately we Christian sisters need to be setting a better example. I have seen many posts from my sisters in Christ talking about this or being really hardcore on one side or the other. And believe me, I am not here to take sides. I have an opinion, but that said, it's only from really just headlines and, little bits that I've seen as I've scrolled through. But I don't really think that opinion matters because ultimately most of what I have seen is gossip. Plain, pure, and simple gossip one way or the other. And I think it is best that we pull away from that. So that is why I've decided to tackle this topic today. It's actually a really big one and a really important one. For, a few weeks off and on, I listen to YouTube a lot during my work times, like when I'm sewing or making veils or something like that for Etsy. I will sit down and I'll put a YouTube video on of either a sermon or just something that I want to learn to do. Sometimes it's just other housewives talking housewife things, but I like doing that. Anyway, I have put on quite a lot in terms of gossip to kind of get my head in the right place about that, because I feel like I am seeing so much of it, and particularly from our sisters in Christ. I find myself feeling really grated on a lot over the topic. Forgive me, I have to rub my eye. It's still a little bit early for me, and I got the eye goobers going. The gossip stuff has been just coming up constantly, and it's not just over the Candace Owens and the Erica Kirk thing. That one's pretty egregious in my mind, because it's just blatantly gossip, but I see it in women's groups constantly. I try not to be in those groups too much, but I do have, 3 or 4 of them head covering related, and then I have biblical housewife kind of groups in there too, a few of those, handful. But they appear on my Facebook feed, and some of the posts in there, I'm like, we shouldn't be doing that. We really need to be really careful with what we say and what we do, especially in regards of others. But that made me really want to kind of dig into this topic more, because I think it's a really worthy topic that we really need to spend some time on digging into, getting in the Word about, and being very, very careful, because I think we Christian sisters are extremely prone to being gossipy. Don't get me wrong, men can be so too, but that's for the men to deal with. I don't deal with men on this channel. If you want to listen and you're a dude, that is completely fine. That's on you. But my audience is for the Christian sisters out here. I feel like that is the biblical way to be. So that said, you dudes deal with that in your own time, in your own place. I don't think you guys are perfect on this front, so don't take me wrong on that. But I do think we women are far more prone in our nature to get waylaid by this sin. And that includes me. I try to be really, really careful about that. But even occasionally I'll be like, oh, I really shouldn't have said that. That really wasn't my info to tell. Or, I'm maybe enjoying the info a little too much. And I think that's a good clue. Anyway, I have some notes. I'm going to go over them. It might be a bit of a dry topic to a degree. I'm going to go through Bible verses. The thing that I want to do that I think is often lacking is talk about what is gossip? And I really want to get you guys to engage on this, if you will, down below in the comments. And the reason why is I think there's not a lot of discussion on, okay, what constitutes gossip? When is it a prayer request? When is it information that is true, that is just simply being shared and relayed from one person to another? When is it wrong? When is that line of sin actually crossed? So I think that can be challenging, and it's also subjective. Different people are probably going to land in different spots on this. That's why I think it's worthy of discussion. But keep it polite, keep it respectful. Any snarkiness and stuff that's not useful, I'm probably just going to delete it. I'm a free speech believer, but in the same turn, I don't want to see a lot of fighting going on my channel. So I just don't think it's fruitful. So keep it fruitful, keep it nice and kind, please. So what is gossip? Again, very subjective, but I think a good way to start is a dictionary. And not just one, but multiples. So I've pulled from different ones online. Conversation or reports about other people's lives that might be unkind, disapproving, or not true. The first one was listed as Webster. This is Oxford. Informal talk or stories about other people's private lives, which may be untrue or unkind. Idle talk or rumor, personal, private, or unverified information about others, frequently with a negative or judgmental undertone. I think that is a really, really good description. Because if we're being all negative and judgy, that is an issue. I do think there is a place on life for judgment, righteous judgment. However, being pridefully judgmental is absolutely a sin. Are we being all prideful? Oh, am I better than her? Am I not dealing with her sin or his sin? That whole entire tone is in itself a sin, in my opinion. And I think in the way the Bible lays that out, we have that very same beam in our own eye. And that is not a good place to be. You don't want to do that, because gossip is a very deadly sin. It destroys churches frequently. Don't play with that. Some more thoughts on what might constitute gossip. Sharing true, private, or sensitive details about someone behind their back, i.e., repeating confidential information that's shared in trust. Would the person want that to be repeated? I think that is a very good clue. If you're sharing something, even if it is 100% true, and you know that they wouldn't want you to share that, one, you're being a jerk. Don't be a jerk. But only share stuff that you know a person would want to be shared and you know it to be true. So, do you have the permission? Do you really know? Really? Before you share it? I know this is something I have been tripped up on, sharing something that oh, you know what? I said that to that person, but would the other person have really wanted me to say that? Were they ready to share that? Maybe, maybe not. I need to be more careful about that. We all do. Always think before you speak. My mama ingrained that in me. Think before you speak. Absolutely. You need to make sure that you do that. Spreading rumors, obviously, that is gossip. If you don't know, and that's the Candace Owens thing, come on, so much of that is rumor. Come on, guys. You need to back up. Don't be associated with that stuff and don't take a side. Back away. And if the attention dries up, a lot of that will just go on away, and it needs to. Don't be spreading rumors, unverified information, or half-truths. Frankly, there's also a lot of legal issues when you do that. The whole defamation of character is a very serious legal issue. You don't want to get involved in that. Don't be spreading rumors and untruths about people. It's not a cool thing to do legally, and it's certainly unkind and not Christ-like. You wouldn't want it done to you. When people do that to you, I'm sure it hurts you deeply and cuts you. Don't do it to someone else. Talking negatively about someone's character, their choices, their appearance. Me making fun of people, maybe how they dress, or their smell, their weight, the way they fix their hair or don't. That's not nice. Just don't do it. You wouldn't want it done about you. And everybody's got opinions on what looks good and what doesn't. So what's the point? Don't be a jerk. Sharing about relationships, struggles, and Are you doing it for entertainment and to feel superior? That's a huge red flag. One that we Christians are extremely prone to, and I know this gets rebuked in a lot of the gossip videos, as it should, prayer requests, because a lot of us will share, well, I think I just want you to know so you can pray about it. Yeah, that is a big problem. If you're sharing info you shouldn't be. A much better way to say is, you know what, can you pray for Jane today? I'm just making up a name. Can you pray for Jane? She has some struggles going on. I'm not going to say what because that's private information, but she could just really use your prayer. God knows the matter. Leave it at that. I don't think there's a real harm in doing that, but you do need to be careful in how you say things. And you don't even really have to name the person. You can just leave it with an unnamed. God knows. Unspoken prayer requests, I think, are a good thing. And on that matter, if somebody has one, don't go asking them. You know, it's rude. Just don't. Unless you're really, really close and you feel like that you have that kind of relationship, that's one thing. But realize just let an unspoken request be that, because someone's probably trying not to gossip or share info that they feel like is not theirs to share. Commonly considered gossip. Or I'm sorry, commonly not considered gossip. So we're kind of on to the next thing. Publicly known facts or info that the person openly discusses themselves. I would call a maybe on this. And ultimately, I think you can have gossip about a thing like that if you're being all judgy and prideful about it and feeding on the negativity, almost like you're a wraith, you know, trying to feed on the negative emotions of others. Don't do that. Yes, things can be completely factual and completely public. I see this in a lot of ladies groups, and I think when we start piling on and going, oh, can you believe they're doing this? No, this is terrible. And you're just back and forth and henpecking over it and just over and over and over. But I think the real sin there is actually probably more like pride, because we're just like piling on like a big old dog pile of, you know, fighting. And ultimately, a lot of times we're not looking and seeing how self-righteous we are and how we're coming across. I think that's a real issue. We need to be careful about it. That said, there's absolutely a time and a place to call out leaders who are openly sinning and openly doing bad things. I think wolves in sheep's clothing do need to be called out. But I think we should be looking to the Bible when we have something like that. Go into the people in private by one, by two, and then a public call out is often a good thing to do, especially when you know a person. Fully public is a little bit different, but generally, I kind of think the men doing that kind of stuff, men calling out men and things, is probably just as well to go. I don't think we need to be bickering about it in the ladies groups. It's just not a good thing. Where's the fruit in it? That's ultimately what I come back to. I don't see a big fruit in sitting there, spending all your time nitpicking about the failings and sin of others and puffing ourselves up. I do think there is certainly a time and place to warn others. Hey, be cautious with that person in following or listening to that particular church leader. They have a lot of sinful teachings or teachings that border on concern because they're not necessarily biblical. That's fine. Just don't sit and feed on it and be full of yourself and how perfect and righteous you are, because I think that is a serious issue and we all have to examine ourselves. It's hard to really call someone else on that because it's between you and God. Ultimately, you know your heart. I can't always know your heart. But that spirit is a very ugly spirit, and quite often it is glaring and shows. I think if you have somebody doing a lot of that, yeah, you might need to call them out on it. But in the spirit of Christ, we need to be careful in how we speak and what we do. And especially if we're in a position of leadership ourselves, or we're trying to lead others, we're an older lady teaching youngers, we need to be cautious in our words. That's exactly what I'm trying to do here today as a person who is 48 years old. You know, I know there's ladies on here that may be older than me, but there's probably a lot of you that are younger. And I'm asking you, younger ones, or anyone who will listen, whatever, to please be careful. Watch your speech. Be careful that you're not participating in that sin of gossip. Be careful that you're being kind and you're loving. Where is the fruit in our words? That's always a good question to ask. I know in the real-time way conversations play out, we don't always really got to have that time to sit and do the play-by-play in our head before we say it, but we need to try as much as we can to think that out. Do I have the permission to share? Should I share? Am I sharing in the right spirit? Am I sharing because I'm like feeding on it? There's a scripture that, kind of speaks to that. Am I taking joy and pleasure in other people's pain? That is often a good marker. Am I doing that? Because it's really easy to do that when you maybe don't like somebody a little bit, or there's things about them that irritate you and you see they're full and you're like, oh yeah, I like it. It's fun. It's ha ha, look at you. That is not a Christ-like way to be, and we need to really guard against that. I don't know anybody who's not prone to it, definitely including myself there. When we see somebody that we don't like very much, laughing when they stumble. And I'm guessing the good Lord's probably ready to give us a hard spanking over that one, so we need to watch about that and not do that. Let me go back to my notes here. So other things that may not be factual, necessary communication for safety, leadership, as in like your church leaders, things like that. Human resource matters. Maybe you have a job and you have something you may need to go to HR for help. Be careful about that. But that said, there can be times and places, maybe harassment, things like that. Or informing a family about a medical issue. Maybe your mother is sick and you have to call your brother and you haven't really talked to her yet. A lot of times that stuff's expected, but you do need to be careful about sharing others' medical information. There's literally the legal HIPAA stuff that you have to worry about. But that said, obviously family sharing info for those purposes, there's not a malicious intent. It's just a practical, factual need. Constructive problem solving conversation with the right people, over, like, maybe you have a coworker who's missing a lot and it's really affecting your work. Well, you might need to talk to a supervisor about those things. Here's a situation that is also not gossip. A child getting help from a parent to deal with someone else's poor behavior. So, in this particular case, I've encountered that kind of a thing a lot, where you might have somebody who's seeking your advice and your counsel, your leadership, your mentoring, however you want to term it, just your parenting. And that person comes to you and they say, you know what, I'm really struggling with this person because they do this, 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 and this, and I just don't know how to deal with it. You can help them, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for them to do. You're trying to get advice. Now, grant you, it is a dangerous territory. You can easily devolve into the sin of gossip here. But if that person, especially if they're your child trying to get advice from their parent, and they're like, Mom, I just don't know how to deal with this. This person is being really difficult and they're my elder and I just don't know what to do. That's not gossip. That is just parenting. And I do think we should encourage our children to come to us. And, maybe a supervisor at work, you encourage people to come to you, not in a spirit of playing games or, been nasty with each other, and those things will always happen. I know that. But that said, you want the good conversations to happen. You want the mentoring. You want the advice. I don't think those are bad. It's all around what's in that heart. Where are your actions and your motives really? Let me rephrase that. Where are your actions being drawn from your motives? Where are those motives really at? Are they, I need help, I need to make this better? Or are they, let me tell you about this crazy thing that's happening? Very different things, right? Positive or neutral sharing is usually not gossip. That can be an issue if you're sharing good news. Maybe it's not yours to tell. I mean, it can be wonderful things, But so I kind of take exception with that a little bit. If it's positive and you truly know the person and you know that they are not going to mind you sharing that info, it's probably not a big deal. But still, here, again, share carefully. Some people really take a lot of joy with getting in and to share their wonderful positive news. Maybe a couple just got engaged. Maybe they don't want everybody to know yet. Maybe they chose you to share with. It's not really your place to go and tell, but just be really smart about those positive shares. I do agree with the suggestion that it's usually not considered gossip, but with caveats, because it can be. You always, no matter what, positive, negative, fact, true, untrue, unknown, always ask yourself, what do I really know here? And is it my place to speak? It's one of the reasons I'm quiet a lot, is because I always feel like I don't have things to say. And then there's always, okay, well, I don't want to be nosy and I don't want to share stuff I shouldn't share. And then I feel like, I don't have anything to say. Introvert problems. Anyway, I digress. Rabbit trail. And you guys are probably going to find that rabbit trail more, because I feel like the older I get, the ADHD, man, I'm not officially diagnosed, but I feel like I have it. Anyway, deadliness of gossip. Scriptural warnings about it. So this section here, I'm going to go and read the scriptures that I printed. I know you're probably going to want to zone out or go ahead and turn the video off. You do what you got to do, but I encourage you to really listen and absorb them. I'll probably read them poorly and flub my words, but I'm going to read them. I encourage you to absorb it, because gossip is a really serious matter. Proverbs 11:13. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Scroll down. Proverbs 16:28. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. Proverbs 18:8. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down in the inner parts of the body. Remember I said you sometimes were feeding on it, like a monster in a horror movie or something? Proverbs 20:19. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with a simple babbler. That's a pretty harsh admonition. Don't associate with him. It kind of tells you how serious it is, right? Proverbs 26:20. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. And I think this is where we have to be, where the fire break is. You have to stop it. If you hear gossip, it's your duty not to repeat it. Proverbs 10:18. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and whoever utters slander is a fool. Don't be a fool. Proverbs 11:9. With his mouth, the godless man would destroy his neighbor, but by knowledge the righteous are delivered. Proverbs 17:9. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. How many times have friendships been separated over gossip? Quite a lot. New Testament warnings. Ephesians 4:29. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. I personally think that is one of the best tests you can ever use to say, is this gossip or is it not? Is it corrupting talk? Is it building people up? Is it fitting for the occasion? That's some of the best structure you can ever give to, okay, is this or isn't this gossip? 1 Timothy 5:13. Besides that, they learn to be idlers, going about from house to house, and not only idlers, but also gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not. Of course, we all put this, that's what we women do. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. That is what a lot of women do. Romans 1:29-30. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers. What I take with that is, look at the list of things that you're being compared to as a gossip. That's pretty serious. Do you want to be associated with that? Probably not. Other relevant verses. Psalm 15, 2-3. He who walks blamelessly and does what is right and speaks truth in his heart, who does not slander with his tongue and does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend. Psalm 101:5. Whoever slanders his neighbor secretly, I will destroy. Whoever has a haughty look and an arrogant heart, I will not endure. Haughty look and arrogant heart. I think that is absolutely a spirit I see in the ladies groups a lot. The arrogant heart is a real issue. We really got to be careful about that. Because look what God says. He will not endure. Do you want that to be said of you before our Lord? James 1:26. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. We have to control our tongue. Oh, I need to do better at controlling my tongue in general. But we have to control that. It's not even just gossip that plagues me, but just generally. But other topic. Leviticus 19:16. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people. That's Old Testament foundation there. And that's a foundation we need to build on in that respect. Questions to ask yourself. How do we fall prey to this personally? Because I'm guessing each of you are going to have a different feeling and where your heart is on that. Let's talk about that if you're willing. Where is our personal Achilles heel? You know, we all got it. We all have our weakness. We all have the thing we're prone to. Maybe someone who just really gets on our nerves. That happens a lot. Yeah. Okay. I admit I have a couple in my life. Add your definition of gossip below, or give any thoughts that you have on the topic. So I would love to see that discussion because I think it's a good thing. I think that iron sharpens iron. I think we need to be sharpening each other, and instead of spending time talking about other people, let's spend time talking about, okay, how do we improve ourselves? How do we get better at this? And how do we not displease the Lord? So I hope this discussion has been fruitful for you and a blessing to you. Going over the topic was certainly fruitful for me, convicting to me, and something I feel like we just, as ladies, we really need to be extra careful about since the nature tends to be there. So I hope that this is a blessing to you, and I hope that you have a very blessed day.